Millionaire dad sees waitress dance with his disabled son, then changes her life forever. It was a rainy Thursday morning when Evan Thatcher's private jet touched down in the sleepy town of Maplebrook, far from the skyscrapers and boardrooms that usually framed his world. Evan, a hardened tech tycoon, had built empires from algorithms, but in the quiet corners of his heart, where love once lived, only shadows remained. He hadn't smiled in years. Not genuinely. Not since the accident that left his 7-year-old son, Daniel, in a wheelchair with limited speech. The boy who once danced barefoot on marble floors and laughed like sunshine was now silent, his bright eyes clouded by trauma. Evan blamed himself. Business had taken precedence. Meetings over moments. And when tragedy struck, a freak car crashed during one of Evan's absences, his wife didn't survive, and his son came back only half whole. On this day, Evan wasn't in Maplebrook for a deal. He was just passing through, trying to get away from another empty mansion that echoed with ghosts. He needed coffee. Something real. So, on a whim, he turned off the highway and parked in front of a small, pastel-painted diner called Rosie's Place. Inside, the scent of sizzling bacon and cinnamon rolls filled the air. Vinyl booths were cracked but clean, and a jukebox in the corner played soft country tunes. The kind of place where people knew your name and asked about your mother's health. Evan stuck out in his tailored coat and Rolex. A waitress approached, mid-20s maybe, with a crooked name tag that read Lila, and a smile that looked like it had been through things and kept on shining anyway. Her red curls were tied back in a fraying bandana, and her sneakers squeaked slightly as she walked. "Coffee, mister?" she asked, cradling a half-full pot in one hand and balancing plates in the other. "Sure," Evan muttered, pulling out his phone. She poured the coffee, not even flinching when his phone rang and he ignored her presence. She turned to leave, but then, Daniel, quiet and still beside his father, let out a soft hum. It was almost a note. A memory of a song. Lila paused. "Hey there, champ," she said gently, crouching by his wheelchair. "You like music?" Daniel blinked, then nodded slowly. "Do you like to dance?" she asked again. Evan opened his mouth to protest. He hated when people tried to fix his son or treated him like a broken toy. But before he could speak, Lila stepped back, walked to the jukebox, and fed it a coin. A slow, melodic tune began to play, "You Are My Sunshine." Then something unbelievable happened. Lila danced. Right there in the middle of the diner, twirling, laughing, silly as sunshine. Not for tips. Not for attention. Just for Daniel. She extended a hand toward him and said, "Come on, buddy. Dance with me." Daniel's fingers twitched. His lips parted. He didn't speak. But he wheeled himself forward, just a little, and moved his arms rhythmically. His face lit up, not a full smile, but the beginning of one. And Evan. Evan forgot how to breathe. The other diners clapped along. And Evan saw something he hadn't seen in years, his son engaging, connecting. It was like watching a wilted flower turn toward the sun. When the song ended, Daniel clapped softly. Lila bowed theatrically and laughed. Then she tousled his hair gently and returned to work like nothing magical had happened. Evan left a $100 bill on the table and walked out shaken. But he couldn't forget her. The next day, he returned. And the next. Each time, Lila danced with Daniel. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes she taught him claps or mimed funny gestures to make him smile. Daniel grew more responsive with every visit. And Evan, still silent in his corner booth, found the iron in his chest starting to rust. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden streaks across the dusty diner windows, Evan finally spoke. "Why do you do it?" he asked her. Lila turned, wiping her hands on her apron. "Do what?" "Dance. With my son. You don't know us." She shrugged. "I don't have to." I see him. That's enough. Evan studied her. You have kids? Her smile faltered, just slightly. No. Not yet. That night, he asked the diner owner about her. The woman's face softened. She's had a hard life. Took care of her younger siblings after their mom died. Works double shifts. Could have gone to college on a dance scholarship but dropped it to raise her family. Never complains. Evan said nothing, but something inside him shifted. That weekend, Daniel said his first word in over a year. Lila. Evan cried in the car on the way home. Ugly, cathartic sobs. He held Daniel's hand and whispered, "Thank you for bringing him back." On Monday morning, Evan returned to Rosie's place. This time in a crisp suit, not as armor, but as purpose. Lila approached with her usual warmth, but he stopped her gently. "I want to show you something." He opened his briefcase and handed her a thick folder. "What's this?" she asked, confused. "Your acceptance. Full scholarship. Juilliard's adult dance program. I spoke to them. They watched footage from the diner I captured on security cameras. They loved you. And I'm covering everything, tuition, living, travel. Everything." Her hand trembled. I can't. I have to work. My siblings. They're grown now," he said softly. "And you've done more than your share. Now it's your turn." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why would you do this?" Evan looked at her, then at Daniel. "Because you saved my son's soul. And maybe, you saved mine too." She hugged him. It wasn't a polite thank you hug. It was the kind that said, "I've carried the world for so long, and now someone finally sees me." Months passed. Lila moved to New York. Daniel kept a photo of her taped to his wall. They video called often, Daniel clapping and giggling at her pirouettes. Evan visited her first performance. Front row. Daniel by his side. As Lila spun on stage under a single spotlight, her red curls catching the light like fire, Evan wept again, but this time from joy. The audience rose in a standing ovation. But none clapped louder than a little boy in a wheelchair and his father, whose heart had finally remembered how to feel. And in that moment, a simple truth rang louder than any applause. Kindness is never small. It ripples. It dances. It saves.